What do I think about evolutionary creationism? There's a lot of people who believe in that, and I would come at this from a couple different angles. I would say first that our version of God that we get from the Bible seems to be a little bit different because in an evolutionary framework, what you have is a God who is more of a deistic God, who's a God from a distance, kind of started the world, created some stuff, created the systems, spun the world around, and then kind of sat back and watch how nature kind of unfolded and let this thing go. I mean, that's kind of the fundamental idea of naturalist or evolution to begin with. To just take that idea, the whole point of it is that it's unguided. And then I think it's a little simplistic for Christians to just come along and say, well, let's just take the idea of the evolution part and then just posit God into it and say, well, he just guided it. Because if you really talk to a Darwinian thinker, the whole point is that it's unguided. That's the whole thing. And so to just say, well, no, it's now guided, I think is a little bit too simplistic of an answer for Christians to just adopt it, kind of hijack it almost and just put God in the middle of it, which is why naturalists are repelled by the idea that you could just take Darwin and stick God into it. Secondly, so I don't think the Bible kind of gives this deistic version of God. I think he's very meticulously involved. Jesus gives the idea of a father who knows everything that's going on. He knows every bird that dies. He sovereignly oversaw it. He knows every hair and every head. And so he's involved. He's not distant. Secondly, and I wouldn't get into the kind of the biology of it all and all that because I'm not a scientist, but I think a lot of the challenge for evolutionary thinking right now is coming from the philosophical realm, where they're challenging the ideas of evolution based on the same challenges that Darwin himself had. He had some doubts, right? That the idea that we are simply the development of a monkey's mind, he said, who can trust the convictions of a monkey's mind? That was his doubt. And what he meant by that, what philosophers are pointing out right now is that if it's true that all of our convictions about the world, all of our convictions about morality, all our convictions about God, for instance, are simply a result of adaptive choices and cognitive faculties being, wired over hundreds of thousands of years just to survive, then the problem with that is that it's not so much about truth, it's more about adapting, it's more about surviving, it's more about getting your genes into the next cycle. The problem with that is that therefore they're not hooking up to what's true. And so what Darwin said is the problem with that is I have to apply that to my own convictions. I have to apply that to my own deductions about truth and also my own deductions about evolution itself. And so if all my convictions about everything, including God, morality, aren't about truth, but they're just about what I needed to believe in order to survive, then I have to apply that to science too. That means all of my scientific conclusions, including my conclusions about evolution, are just decisions I had to make to survive, not decisions that connect to what is true about the universe. So the acid bites back, as Nancy Pearcey says. You're cutting off the branch that you're sitting on by saying that all of our wiring came simply through that evolutionary development. That would include all our wiring in regard to the scientific method and evolution itself. And so really what you're trying to say in that moment is, no. When it comes to evolution, I transcend my evolutionary mind. I look down from an objective point of view from the heavens and I say, this is how we came about. And then somehow I come back down into the evolutionary mind and now I'm just a product of it. We can't really do that. Everything is a product of that. And so we get into a kind of a vicious cycle that we can't get out of. And so I think that some of the philosophical realm is actually starting to challenge a lot of the evolutionary thinking. And that's where I would find my struggles and my doubts as well.